Welcome back to part 2 of our video series on how to install a drip irrigation system to a hose bib. In the first video, we showed you the necessary components and how to install the main supply lines. In this video, we're going to show you the most efficient way to water raised beds. Now, the most efficient way to irrigate a raised bed, like you see here, is to use Dripperline. Now, we're going to be using a 6-inch spacing Dripperline, and if you want more information, again, on Dripperline, check out the video below. But what we found is that Dripperline is honestly the most efficient and effective way to water a large surface area like a raised bed here. What you don't want to do is run, individual emitters from, a bunch of different holes poked in here into every single plant. You want to water, every square inch, every square inch of surface of the raised bed rather than running lines to individual plants. So for that purpose, Dripperline is going to be the most effective type of tubing. Now, we also want to make sure you are familiar with these 1/4-inch valves. These valves are going to allow us to turn our individual lines on and off. So rather than using a traditional, valve, which, a traditional 1/4-inch connector that looks basically just like that, we now have the valve which will allow us to make adjustments to our water flow or just turn off a line completely. So when you see that this arrow is in line like that, that's how we know that our line is open, and when it is perpendicular there and it's going in a different direction, now we know that that line is closed. And these little valves are going to make us our system very, very, very versatile. We're going to be able to turn individual beds on and off. We can turn sections of our beds on and off, so we don't always have to turn off the whole bed. We can just turn off individual sections, so it's a lot more flexible. All right, so you can see here our bed is about 3 feet wide. You can see from one end of the measuring tape to the other is 3 feet. So I'm going to start by making one hole in the center using my pokey. This is my favorite pokey right here. So I'm going to make one hole in the center and then 6 inches out. So I'm going to have a total of 5 lines in this bed. Each one's going to be spaced 6 inches this way, and then we're going to have emitters spaced 6 inches that way. So every 6 inches we're going to have water. So every 6 inches of this bed is going to be dripping, and so that's going to ensure that we can just go ahead and plant anywhere we want on this bed. We don't have to just plant where the line is. We can plant in between the lines because we're getting enough water that's going to cover everything. So let's show you how we do that. Whoop, there's some water in there from when we did our test. You could always drain the water out at the end there. So I have a first hole is at 18, so I'm going to come 6 inches to 12, and then I'm going to make another hole at 6. And as best as possible, I want my holes to be on this side of my poly tube, and I want them to be pointing that way. If your hole's pointing up, if you poke it this way, your line's going to not want to go in that direction. All right, so come back here to 24 and to 30. All right, so I got my holes evenly spaced. Now I'm going to use my Dripperline, which you see here. All right, so I've attached my Dripperline to my 1/4-inch valve like that, and then I'm going to just insert that into the holes that I just made in my poly tube. All right, now I'm going to go around to the other side and show you how we can attach that. All right, so if your line is all kinked up like this, what you can do is prior to installation is unwind the whole spool of line and just stand on on the sidewalk and then walk down the sidewalk or down the street and just unroll the line, and then it'll help to get some of the kinks out. You can also tie one end of the line to the fence or something and pull it taut that way, and that will help. So I'm gonna hold my 1/2 inch line here, and I'm gonna pull this line tight, and I don't want to have an extra emitter hanging. I just want to have enough emitters on here to cover the whole thing. So what I'm going to do is cut it right about here. Oh, I forgot my goof plug. Insert my goof plug at the end. All right, and there's two things I can do here. I can use a staple and put my line tight, and then get a landscape staple and stick it in there, which I have right here. Okay, so now I can put the staple in here. And the line stays relatively straight. Now, anytime there's kinks in the line, it's going to want to, come up or whatever. So what you can do is you could also try this method where you just tuck it in the soil on this end here, stick it down as far as it'll go, and then you could use as many of these staples as you want to keep things straight and in line. You want things to be as straight as possible, because you don't want the lines all over the place, because you want to make sure that you're getting as much of the surface of the bed watered as possible. And if you have wide spaces between the lines, then you're going to be having dry spots, so that's not going to work out very well. All right, so this is pretty common. You have a little bit of a bend in the line. It's not perfectly straight, but that's okay. It's not it doesn't have to be in a laser straight line, but as straight as possible, as straight as you can get it. And we're just gonna run 1, 2, 3, 4 more exactly like this across this bed, and we're gonna cap them all off with goof plugs at the end, and then we'll be done with this one. So let's finish that off and we'll show you how that's done. All right, so here we have it. We have our lines spaced 6 inches apart. Every one of our arrows is in line, so we know that it's on. If we want to turn it off, we can turn it off that way. So it doesn't matter how wide your raised bed is. What you want to do is start in the center and then come out 6 inches from there, right? So you could also come out 7 or 8 inches, so a little bit further apart if you wanted to, but you always want to just start in the center and then work your way out that way, and then you'll have an even number of space lines. So if you look here, let's come around this way, around this broccoli. So now we have our lines that are evenly spaced. I cut them a little long on the ends and just tucked them in there. So that's all you need to just tuck them in on the ends. I did use staples in the middle there, but you do not need to do that. If you just tuck them in on the end there, they should stay put. But look at that. Okay, so that grid, you have a 6x6 watering pattern. So you're going to get water every 6 inches in each direction. That means you can plant this whole bed. You can even plant seeds in this bed, and then you're going to be okay. You don't need to, just plant along the lines. You can plant anywhere along the bed. So we're going to do that same thing with the herb bed here and with the narrower bed here. This bed's only about 1.5 or 2 feet wide, so we may only do 3 lines in this bed. I might do, probably one in the middle and then spaced 7 or 8 inches apart, but we're only going to do 3 lines in this bed. So that's going to do it for the raised beds. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to these containers, and in our next video we're going to show you how to use the same Dripperline, but we're going to use fittings to go ahead and more effectively water these containers. So in the raised beds we can run straight lines all the way across, and that works really great. But in these round containers we're going to go ahead and use a couple different fittings so we can make circles with the Dripperline and more effectively water these containers. So thanks for checking out this video, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Bye.